We already messed up? Are we live? The leaves are falling from the trees, and so too you will be falling in the DBNI standings if you don't get some good results soon. What better way to bring on the final stretch of diplomacy in 2022 than in the stabbiest city in the world, coming to you live from Weasel Moot in Chicago, Illinois. This is the DBNI Countdown Show.
Welcome to a special live edition of the DBNI Countdown Show, coming to you on location from Weasel Moot. I am your host, Brian Preble. I am joined by DBN's Clown Prince and my fellow co-host, Zachary Moore.
Thank you.
And this crowd of wonderful friends and lying bastards.
Bad crowd.
And we know that each and every one of them are waiting for a chance to stick a knife in their neighbor's back once they get onto the game board.
Listen to me, Brian. I've been looking at these people in their eyeballs and reading the book of their soul for the past 12 hours. I don't trust any one of them on a board any more than I trust you to take yourself off mute during a stream. It is going to be a bloody weekend, and nobody is safe.
And this is our first time ever live. It is going to be a wild and crazy one. We're going to have fun. We took a month off, Zach, and we suddenly find ourselves covering 4 new events. We've doubled the amount of events that count for scoring, and there's a lot of changes in our standings. So new to this broadcast, we added the VWDC Summer Classic. We added the Boston Massacre. Yep. We added BlitzCon, a completely new way to play diplomacy. And we added the European DipCon, our first ever European face-to-face event of the season.
Absolutely, Brian, and I am loving the variety of game formats and locations which shows that the DBNI truly is an event for all forms of diplomacy from around the globe. Now listen to how it works, and listen good. Anyone who wins a qualifying event that has at least 9 boards and 28 unique players and plays in at least 2 virtual face-to-face games will receive an automatic invitation. So coming onto your screen right now, we see the winners of the DBNI face-to-face events so far this season. New to the list are Siobhan Nolan, Robert Schupa, and Christophe Bourget. None of these events were large enough to merit an auto qualifier, but all of them provided their winners with a lot of delicious DBNI points. Mwah.
And in the virtual face-to-face category, we see that Katie Gray won the largest event of the season to date, securing her first ever automatic qualification to the DBNI. Congratulations, Katie Gray. And Franz Joseph won the first ever BlitzCon. Win was historic, but sadly was not large enough for the automatic invitation.
Listen, no new extended deadlines games have been completed since our last show, but we will continue to monitor the ODC. We're looking forward to seeing Nexus Press League on Press League. Andrei Gribakov in the building, currently leads the Nexus Press League. If that event were to end today, Andrei would receive an automatic invitation when their second virtual face-to-face game was played.
And in league play, the French Diplomacy League, Tour of Britain, and Virtual Diplomacy League are underway. The winners of all 3 events will likely automatically qualify for the DBNI.
Yes, they will.
The VDL Awards, 2 automatic invitations. Zach won for the winner of the regular season and 1 to the VDL Championship.
Well, Brian, that's enough intro. Let's give the unwashed masses what they want. Show me those updated standings. And coming in first onto the screen, we'll hold this for a second. Coming in first onto your screen, the Queen is dead, but royalty is alive and well in diplomacy. Red Sullivan seems to always look hammered and a little sickly, but all the riches have flown upwards to this charismatic leader who many would consider to be the socialist player in the diplomacy hobby.
And
that's good enough for second place.
I can't believe I'm saying this, Zach. but I feel like the rest of the field is sleeping on Brandon Fogel. He has not had as dominant a performance in the Virtual Diplomacy League as last season, but has quietly moved into second place in the DBNI standings.
Well, Brian, Tanya Gill spent the summer hiking up mountains and sledding down the DBNI rankings. She won't likely play again this season, nor will she need to, as it only took her one event to clinch her spot in the DBNI tournament.
As long as she plays those 2 virtual games.
That's all she needs.
Christoph Borgia rode a massive final round at the EDC in Switzerland last weekend to become the European Diplomacy Champion and shoot up the DBNI rankings into 4th in the process.
Coming in at number 5, Katie Gray's Anatomy wielded her scalpel with devastating precision at the VWDC Summer Classic, doctoring the board to her liking and profiting off her patience with a slow and steady play style. She is locked into the DBNI tournament and should be one of the favorites to win.
And in 6th place, get your earplugs ready for this one. Matthew Shrill went screaming up the standings with great performances at Whipping and Nexus Season 7. Matthew's been one of the most consistent performers since the DBNI's inception.
And lucky number 7, Steve Personini made a name for himself at the French CMFV tournament, getting a lead early and keeping it. He's 1/3 of the way through the French ABCs of power. Get ahead, get beheaded, and parade your head for all to see. Can he flee to the international waters of DBNI?
Yeah, everybody knows the ABCs. Here are places 8 through 14. Her name may be Irish, but it's Canada that seems to suit her best. Siobhan Nolan has done the near impossible, winning back-to-back face-to-face Canadian Open tournaments. Zach, I'm calling dibs on Siobhan as one of my Bubble Watch picks if she shows up for Cascadia next year.
Brian, you need all the help you can get in Bubble Watch. I'll happily oblige. Coming in at number 9 is Robert Huthrosa Schupa, showed his Boston powers at the Massacre tournament last month, showing up on the podium as its gold member. All there's left to ask is, can he keep his mojo safe until February?
And in 10th place, Riaz Varani won 6 to 7 gunboat tournaments since the last time we taped this show, and he'll probably win another one while we're recording it. But unfortunately, those don't count, so he'll have to settle for second place at Cascadia as the foundation for his top 10 score.
Do better, Riaz. Number 11, Greg Matthews is locked in this year, displaying his usual dominance at Nexus Season 7 and making a rare face-to-face appearance at Cascadia. If the extended deadline savant can get the hang of fast-paced play, he will be a problem on this circuit.
Watch out. Franz Brosef may have been nervous, but he showed no signs of performance anxiety. It only took 5 minutes for him to bust into the DBNI top 28, stroking the keyboard with skill and precision at the BlizzCon tournament.
That's beautiful, Brian. And at number 13, Kartik Konas in the building today, showed out with a dominant performance at the Summer Classic, falling short on the top board, but getting on the podium with an impressive 3rd place finish. He's here this weekend, and he'll be at Carnage in November, where he is a serious contender to win both.
Ooh. 2022 Diplomat of the Year, Jason Massbaum.
Let's go!
Shows that his success was not just a happy little accident. His performance at the WDC Summer Classic was a near masterpiece.
Well, coming on your screen now, let's get to numbers 15 through 21, and who better to start with than Andrew Goff, who would be higher on this list if he hadn't come up just short of victory at Whipping this April, stopped in his tracks during the final round by the most handsome and clever man in diplomacy. Sorry, Goff.
Brian Honey Badger Ecton doesn't care what I have to say. He doesn't care that he's in 16th place. The only thing that's probably bothering Brian is he didn't manage to come in first at DixieCon. Question is, will he care enough to play again this season?
At number 17, Noam Brown was really starting to unlock his diplomacy potential this spring, putting together an impressive showing at Whipping, but has not played since and has stagnated as a result. We'll hope to see him at Carnage WDC to lock up his place in the DBNI.
Don't let his 18th place fool you.
We hope.
Timothy Crosby is lighting the world on fire
Crosby.
in league diplomacy this year, currently second in both the VDL and Tour of Britain. He's a relentless negotiator whose name you'll want to remember in February. Expect him to be a top 5 seed going into DBNI. I'm calling it now.
Tim Crosby is an animal. Who else is good? Number 19, Philip Weister debuts in the top 28 after an excellent performance at the European Diplomacy Championships, where he rode a 50% top share to a second-place finish at a difficult event. Brian, you know who else was second in Europe a couple months ago?
Who's that, Zach?
King Charles. And just look at him now. Arrow is pointing up for Prince Weister.
Ruben Sanchez started the season strong with the second-place finish at the CDFE. But this score alone won't keep him in the top 28.
Oh, number 21, Matt Langer showed out at his home tournament, coming in second place at Boston Massacre and setting a firm foundation for a DBNI run. Langer has not played a round of virtual diplomacy this year and figures to drop off this list unless that changes soon.
On to positions 22 to 28. Saren Kwok's retirement.
The Queen!
Saren Kwok's retirement was shorter than Tom Brady's. The 2022 season DBNI top seed returned to the game and returns to form with the third-place finish at Cascadia. The score won't be enough for her to play in February, and she knows it. Saren will be trying to improve her score this weekend at Weasel Moot.
Number 23, Nicolas Sahu-Gay had a good result at whipping and will probably win 1 or 2 tournaments between now and December with one hand tied behind his back. But the clock is ticking and EDC just came to a close without his participation. Sahu-Gay needs to Sahu get in the game.
Randy Lawrence Hurt will look to build off an impressive return. To competitive diplomacy at DixieCon when he squared the city of Chicago at Moot this weekend.
Well, this number 25, many of you may think of Liam Stokes as Ed Sullivan's illegitimate son, but those of us who know Liam well understand that he gets sunned every time he steps onto a diplomacy board outside of Canada. He turned in a strong result at Cascadia, but has not been able to get off the ground in the United States or virtual play.
Extended deadline player John Anderson had a nice showing at Nexus Season 7, but he'll need to supplement it with another top board appearance at Season 8 if he wants to hold on to the spot in the tournament. Alternatively, former VDL Player of the Year John Anderson could make a return to virtual and pad his score.
Number 27 is Hunter Biden Catcher. Hasn't played any virtual events, presumably due to a misplaced laptop, but he finds himself in the top 28 despite a measly 4% top share, keeping with his tradition of reaping benefits from a board to which he contributes absolutely nothing, Brian.
We saved the first tie of this month's standings for last, and it's an exciting one. Rookie Brandon Custer edged out 2021 Diplomat of the Year Peter McNamara after 3 tiebreakers. Both players have identical scores. Both players have not played each other head-to-head, and both have the exact same top event score. This tie was broken by top share. Brandon Custer had a lone top in both of his BlitzCon games, resulting in an eye-popping 100% top share. In the end, though, both players are going to need to improve their results to make it into this year's DBNI.
Not good enough, Brian. Well, coming onto your screen now, a look at the players on our bubble. Places 28 through 35 that just missed the cut. I will read the names to you now as the monologue in your head. If you read them in my voice, it's kind of like I read them to you. Coming onto the screen now, it's places 36 through 42. Brian.
My voice sounds strangely like Zach's in this. But what stands out to me about our bubble players is that all of these players have extremely close scores. We're a little over halfway through the season. We're already seeing places separated by fractions of a point.
Okay.
So I think with that, folks, we are going to call it a wrap. Thank you for our first and maybe last live countdown episode ever. Thank you all for watching. We will return with our normal bubble watch and all the other goodness next month. Y'all have a good night. Thank you for watching.
They're hurrying us out. They want us gone.